Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my podcast. I'm Heimo Scheuch, the CEO of Wienerberger, and today we have a special edition of my podcast. Ask me anything was the subject, and in this sense, I'm glad to answer your questions.
The first question was, hello Mr. Scheuch, what advice would you give to 30-year-old Heimo Scheuch? What would you have liked to know earlier?
I'm not the type of guy who gives advices, because I think everybody is well positioned to know what's best for herself or himself. But if I look back and what you were saying, when I was 30 years old and now I'm already 50, I'm turning 56 actually, so getting old. But at 30, I think it's important that you there's a lot of enthusiasm for doing things, being curious, being intrigued and interested by things. I think the only thing I would say as an advice, to be patient. Yeah, sometimes when you are younger, you want to do everything in one day or in 1 hour. Things need to happen because they have to happen, and you need to wait for the right moment. So this, I think, the privilege of being a little bit more experienced is that you have patience. And this is something, as a young one, you don't have so much. But I would say that would have been a little bit more helpful at the time being.
Can you name a person who has had a tremendous impact on you as a leader? Maybe someone who has been a mentor to you, and why and how did this person impact your life?
I would say that there are two persons, and sorry if I say two, but that's actually a fact that have a major impact on me. My beloved father, who died a couple of years ago, was a natural-born leader. Leader in the sense that he had a difficult childhood, had to come out of this. He did his own sort of studies and how he sort of created his own life. But he gave me a very good background in the sense, keep your 2 feet on the ground. Yeah, be somebody who is in close contact with nature, because nature forms us and gives us a lot of advice when you listen to it carefully. And he gave me this sort of opportunity to learn with him. And this is certainly the major part of my life. And the other one is my mother, because she's a caring woman. She's really keeping the family together and has great values. And in this lifetime, it's so important to have values. And she clearly, from a value of being honest, trust, respect, as I mentioned earlier, these are things that she clearly lives in her life, and she's so respectful and so caring. There's no better mother in the world than her.
Which advice would you give your 18-year-old self? An advice that would save yourself so much time. Mm-hmm. What would that be? I
would say, when I was 18, we are talking here the years end of the 70s, it was a completely different world. Yeah, we didn't have smartphones. We didn't have the internet. We were not allowed to see so much TV or watch TV. So for us, it was a completely different lifestyle. So today, being 18 is very, very different. Yeah. So again, I think here to be open-minded, to reflect a little bit, to listen to others. It's very important. I think today everybody has an opinion about everything, and I think also young people should be open-minded and respect what other people have to say and listen to them carefully before they make their own judgment. I think this is important. Again, another aspect which in this changing world is very, very critical is to learn from others, to be open-minded to other cultures. Because as you know, respect is very important these days. A lot of people are very quick in saying, I respect, but then they turn around and it's the contrary. Yeah? And when I talk about respect, it's about culture, race, religion, and social background. All of them are important. And I think everybody at 18 is well advised to do this because it's really critical for the future of the society.
Which advice would you give someone who isn't sure or happy with his current job?
To take off a little while, to take a week or two off and spend a little time somewhere else and think about himself or herself and what really matters for him, and then make a decision afterwards. If you are not sure that you do the right thing, take a little bit of time, reflect, and then take a decision. And it's never a bad decision, because a decision is important. Not just continue and just let it flow, but take a deliberate decision, either to continue and change certain things, or say, listen, this is not the right job, I move on. Because as I said, life is short, and you should enjoy every day, and not just being frustrated or depressed. That's not the right way forward.
What is your opinion on the subject of new work? We're talking about flexible working, remote working, the 4-day week. Are all these things implementable for Wienerberger, at least in the white-collar area? And are there any steps planned already?
Well, I think it's very good that you mentioned this, because when we talk about Wienerberger, more than 19,000 colleagues working for Wienerberger today, I would say more or less 15,000 work in our factories. So flexible hours is a little difficult, because you have shifts to do and there's responsibility to run our plants. And therefore I think it's important to have here obviously a lot of respect for them, because they work hard hours, hard work. During the summer it's very hot, and in the winter it's also not the best working environment in some areas. So I think it's very important that we keep this in mind as a manufacturing company. And we do a lot to improve their health and their safety, and that should be top of the agenda. When we now move to what you call the white collar, or meaning administration, sales, and other overhead structures, keep in mind that obviously we have already a lot of remote working. Take, for example, a sales representative. She or he has to travel to see clients. He can't plan this in 20 hours or in 24 hours. There are some long hours as well, organized differently, or late evenings, for example, when you sit with clients. So there's a lot of flexibility, yes, and there must be, because obviously you have a private life as well. So we need to be flexible, and we need to have remote working. But I think it's only normal in a modern context to do so. Then we have obviously family situations. You have obviously today a different family than you used to have. Patchwork families, families that obviously with smaller or bigger grown-up kids. You know, also the pandemic has shown us it's complex to manage this. So we have to be more flexible, working from home, being responsible to do certain things, and we trust each other that everybody sort of accomplishes what she or he has to do. But at the end of the day, I'm a strong believer that we humans are social beings. We need to get together, and the office is a place where we get together and where we exchange. You can't be innovative, you can't be creative if you stay at home only. Some people like to do that, but I think in the Wienerberger family we need to say clearly the office work is part of ourselves, because here we get together, we learn from each other, we share experience, and we devote a lot of energy to innovation. So yes, flexible hours, yes, there can be different ones. We have it already in place for different groups, etc. So this is going to be part of it, but I think we need to keep in mind also we need to act responsible for the company, because we all work for the company, not for ourselves. And we need to have a respectful and trustful working relationship with each other.
What is planned to ensure that there are more women in senior management at Wienerberger? And is there a target of reaching 50% at some point? Or how realistic is that within the next few years?
First of all, I find it, and this is my very personal opinion, I would find it very, very strange and actually not very rewarding for women to set targets, because that would be very negative. Yeah, and I think the American colleagues, or the North American one, and the English have done away with this, because they say it's gender equality. So I know that we are a little bit behind in continental Europe, but I think we should not talk about targets. What is more important, that we create an atmosphere where young women can grow through the organization. Because it's normal that if somebody wants to create a family, for example, and want to have kids, we should not punish women for this. Yeah, that's the old days. I mean, you need to create the flexibility that, first of all, the young women stay integrated, if they want to, spend time with their kids, but then can come back. Also time-wise, from 15 to 20 hours, then 25 hours, whatever. But we need to create this atmosphere and then this framework. I think we've done it successfully, at least at Wienerberger. And then it is a question also from willingness. From the, that I'm very glad to have a colleague on the managing board. That we have colleagues also on the supervisory board, and this has changed dramatically. It's a matter of time. You can't sort of say tomorrow I will be at this percentage point, etc. I think Wienerberger has its own culture, and we will succeed. When you look at certain aspects like sales, internal sales, for example, or administration, we are well above 45% already. So I think we create here the basis for the future strong foothold for women in management.
You mentioned that you like sports. So what do you think about companies offering their employees sports activities, and does Wienerberger even offer such activities?
To my knowledge, we offer in certain subsidiaries, also here at the head office, certain courses on yoga, or we have even running classes, etc. Yes, we can do this from time to time, but at the end of the day, I think everybody needs to make a choice what he or she does in his spare time, and do this. I think we should not overdo it with respect what we all propose, because actually for us it's important to have a healthy and good and future-oriented working environment, do a lot for training and education, and the rest I think everybody is well advised to keep an eye on herself or himself.
The last question of this section is, if you could swap places with any other CEO for one day, who would it be and why?
I don't want to swap anything. I'm very happy where I am. I think for me it's important to have a great culture, great colleagues around me and people to work with. Wienerberger is a wonderful company. I've seen a lot in my life. I think we have a wonderful corporate culture. We have so many enthusiastic people among the more than 19,000. And believe me, the more I travel, the more I'm in touch with people that work, for example, long hours in our factories, and how enthusiastic, how devoted they are. It's a wonderful thing to have. And I don't want to change anything.